Hey everyone, welcome back to another Kevin's Kreations here on Geektopia Island. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Cardwell.
And we're back today to showcase another deck from the new set of the 7th from Force of Will. And I'm pretty excited about this one because we haven't shown this ruler yet, and she's got a lot to show, and it's going to be crazy. But before we get into it, guys, we just remind you that we do have our Force of Will Grimoire down below. It is our database for the game Force of Will, and we took a lot of time and a lot of effort to put into it and make it work real well for what we wanted and how it should work. So go check it out. Whenever you're out and about and you need to make a deck or you have a deck idea, you're just like, cool, put that down real quick, and you just have it there. And it's always on your phone, so you can always get to it easily.
There we go. And just to remind you that we do have a Patreon as well. The link will be down below. It only takes $1 to really support us, and if you love our content, and we'd really appreciate it. And hopefully we can get there and, advance and be a lot better.
I mean, we're super close to 1,000, guys, so make sure you hit that bell and give us that subscribe. But we're going to go over the deck called BnB today. So that is Air, Burn, and Bounce because we're playing Astema and Beatrice.
Yep.
So it's going to be kind of a difficult game. It's going to take a little bit because you got to do both of them and you got to get rid of both of them. But it's not really that bad. So first up, we're with Astema. She is the red-black ruler from the 7th. Tag Fallen Angel. You cannot win the game. Your opponent cannot lose the game. Whenever an entity your opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the field, choose one. This ability triggers only once per turn. Produce a red or a black. Draw a card. And then her God's Art is Envy. Pay 0. Search your deck for a card named Inferno. Reveal it and put it in your hand. Then shuffle your deck.
Super good.
Her Judgment side is a 12/12 Precision, Flying, First Strike, and Bane. You cannot win the game. Your opponents cannot lose. Whenever an entity your opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the field, choose one. This ability triggers only once per turn, and you could either produce a red and a black or draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
And then enter, destroy up to 2 target J Resonators your opponent controls. She's really strong in this deck for a multitude of reasons, but mostly it's the draw trigger because we have a card that really works well with it, and we'll get to that really soon. The other ruler we're playing is Beatrice. She is the blue-black ruler, and she has Tag Fallen Angel. If you would draw a starting hand, you draw a starting hand -1 card, and your max hand size is decreased by 1 until the end of the game. Her God's Art is Greed. Pay 0. If you have no cards in hand, draw 2. So pretty good.
Yeah.
And then Null, at the end of your turn, draw a card. And her backside is a 5/7 with Flying and Bane. Enter, return up to 2 non-Magic Stone, non-J-Roll entities your opponent controls to their owner's hand. Null, at the end of turn, draw a card. So she actually rewards you for having no cards in hand, which is an odd mechanic, but it's super strong in what she does because her null triggers are actually really, really good. And you can do a lot of shenanigans with them, and like as long as you cheat the stack a little bit, you can do a lot with it.
Yeah, and that's what the term null means, just no cards in hand. And it's pretty awesome. Now, of course, our first big boy is Electo. It's a 1 blue, 4/4. It has Bane, and then remove 3 Resonators from your graveyard from the game. Put this card from the graveyard into the field, so that works. And then it has Null. Whenever you draw a card, your opponent banishes a non-Magic Stone, non-J-Ruler entity if they don't discard a card. So therefore, you can just control the game with him and through Null a lot.
Yeah. So remember Stemma drawing you a card every time you kill a thing?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, cool, draw a card, and then trigger Electo, lose a thing. It's insane.
And Beatrice being like, oh, you don't have any cards in here? Draw a card.
Yeah, cool.
Cool, thanks.
Next up is the Transformed. He is a Cthulhu Mans, which is important. He is 1 black for a 1/1. Enter, your opponent discards a card, your opponent loses 400 life. It's just help you to make sure they don't have a hand, so your life is much easier, and it's a Cthulhu, which matters.
Sounds good. The next one is Wall of Terror, one of my favorite cards ever. It's 1 blue wall, 0/8. Discard a card, you or target entity gain barrier until turn. Just free low, just whatever you need to. No, this card gains +4/+4 and barrier and bane, so it can block and murder everything it needs to. And the fact that you can just discard your whole hand.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, I have Null, turn 1, thanks.
In this deck, this card is one of the powerhouse cards because it literally turns on Null whenever you need it to.
For sure.
And you're like, hey, cool, I'm doing something and I need Null. No.
Discard.
It's disgusting. And once you do that, you can give everything else hexproof and it automatically, or barrier, and it automatically gets barrier, which is disgustingly good.
So gross.
Next up is Majerah, the Jealous Fury. She is a red-black and for a 7/7 flyer. It is also Cthulhu. If this card is played from your hand, you may remove from the game as it resolves. If you do, it gains quick cast, and you may play this card from removed area without paying its cost as long as it's in your removed area. Enter, your opponent banishes a Resonator. If they don't, they discard a card. So again, it's another Electo trigger, essentially.
Yes.
But you can do it as any time you need to later on.
Next one, of course, is Virgilius, because why not? He's the powerhouse of this whole block, I guess. So he has 3 black, 10/10 swiftness. You may make a J ruler. You control astral rather than pay this card's cost, which is how you're mostly going to be playing them. And then you can play a black. Choose one. This card deals 400 damage to target player or J Resonator. This card deals 400 damage to your opponent and each J Resonator your opponent controls. Choose this option only if this card is attacking, which why wouldn't you? And then it has a fallen trigger of Drain and Bane. So if you pop a God's Art, you swing, then you can kill everything all at once.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
And this entire deck, like almost all the cards have Bane, which is kind of gross.
Yes.
Next up is Umarat Toil, the Keymaster of Outer World. He is a blue, black, and red for a 8/8. He's a Cthulhu. You can remove this card in your hand from the game, produce a red, blue, or black, spin this only to play Cthulhu cards. You can also play this card from your removed area, which is really, really key.
Yeah.
And then Awakening, you play a red, blue, and a black, enter, put target resonator from your opponent's graveyard into the field into your control.
Yeah.
So if later on, late game, this dude, if he goes to late game, you're just like, cool, steal your big dude, because I can.
Probably steal your Virgilius, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, most of the time you're going to want to steal that thing. But otherwise, this dude is literally there to help you. He helps get Null because he removes himself from your hand, and he plays another card in your hand. So that double helps you get Null because you get to play either the transformed Electo or Majerah. So all of those Cthulhu dudes that you just like, hey, cool, remove for free, play another dude.
Yep.
And you just get free Null, and then also Electo gets to eat all these up in your graveyard for free, and you get to just play them later.
Yeah, exactly, which is ridiculous. Next one is Mermaid with the Disappearing Voice. It's 3 blue and 1, 10/10, Null, enter. Put all non-magic stone, non-J roller entities your opponent controls with total cost 3 or less to the bottom of their owner's decks in any order. That's super powerful because they don't get to mess with those cards anymore. And then you can play a blue, discard this card, return target Resonator with total cost 3 or less to the owner's hand. Simple as that.
Yeah. Both are really good in this deck because one helps you get Null, and the other is when you have it, you just get to board wipe them.
Yep.
Next up for creatures is Alisaris, the Invader of God City. It is an older card, but it is super good in this deck. Alisaris, he is a white, red, and 7 for a 10/10. You may pay 1 less to play this card for each card in your removed area. So all your little dudes that remove themselves help him make this dude less. Enter, you may put a card from removed area into your hand. Pay 0, reveal this card from your hand. Put it on top of your deck, in your graveyard, or remove it from the game. So as long as you mess with it correctly, you can set up your next few plays with it or what you want to do with it. And it kind of gets silly because you can just be like, hey, cool, put it on top of my deck so I know I draw it. And then get back a card next turn because I play it for 2 mana.
Yeah.
It's kind of gross the amount of stuff you can do with that.
Of course, our first chant here is a Voice from the Void. It's 1 blue. Quick cast Remnant, draw a card. Null, you may play this card without paying its cost. So, it just helps you out with the other dude that rips thing.
If that's the last card in your hand, it's free.
Yeah, done.
Next up is Gradius. It is 1 red for an atom. Target J Resonator loses all abilities until the turn. Then this card deals 800 damage to it. You can discard it to Violet. We're not doing that, but this is literally only here, so you can deal with. You have another way to deal with Astema's ability.
Yeah.
So when she's on her J ruler side, you're like, cool, remove her abilities, and you lose the game.
Yeah, thanks. Good job. Next one is Space-Time Anomaly. It is a blue, black, quick cast. It has Remnant as well. Target J Resonator gains -5/-5 until end of turn. Draw a card. That's just what you need to do, pretty much. Just kill.
Again, this also helps you get your dudes astral because you can swing into something or make them smaller to kill them. And then it draws you a card, so Electo triggers.
Yep.
It's pretty nice. Next up is Inferno, the card that Astema goes and gets. A red-black for a chant. Choose one. Your opponent banishes a non-magic stone, non-J rule entity until they control the same amount as you. Your opponent discards cards until they have the same amount in their hand as you. And your opponent loses life until they have the same amount as you. And then Fallen Trigger, as long as you have a Stemma, you get to choose all 3. And it also says this card gains quick cast in all zones. Yep. So with a Stemma on her God's Art turn, you're like, cool, pay 0, go search this up. And then
cast it
and discard your hand to Wall of Terror in response. So that way they have to discard their hand.
Yep.
Kind of gross.
I think this card's just super powerful in general. Even if you play red-black with Astema, I don't know why you would without it, but I think it's good.
This card's so good. Like, I've played in a big format with this card, and it's insane. Because you're just like, hey, cool, I'm at 10. You're at 10 now.
Yeah, it's a huge catch-up card. Just like, whatever you're doing better, I'm gonna make sure you're doing it worse now, as worse as I am. The next one, of course, is the Last Sacred Sword. Is 2 red and black, but is rarely cast for that. You may banish all but one entity you control and discard your hand rather than pay this card's cost. This card deals 1,000 damage to your opponent. So if you're the last ditch effort, then you're just like, bam, do it. It'd be funny if you're able to do this with a Stemma Inferno, make like with Belial, make them 20, and then you just cast 2 of these, and then they're just dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Done.
The next card is actually Beatrice's Imagination. It is a blue-black for a chant. You may play cards from your graveyard this turn. If a card would be put into the graveyard from anywhere this turn, remove it from the game instead. And it has Null, produce a blue and a black. So it literally gets to play all those cards again for free. And if you have both Last Secret Swords, then you're like, hey, cool, cast one by discarding my hand and kill you, and then play the other one from the graveyard, and it's kind of disgusting. But it really just helps you give all of your triggers again. You can play everything again. You can play extra voids from the voids and everything. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And then the last card is the Fountain of Oblivion Moon, which I found, and it's kind of a funny card. I don't know how good it's going to be because it costs 4, but if you get it, it does shut off a card.
Yeah.
So 2 blue and 2 for enter name and gen non-J ruler card. Non-will activate abilities of cards that share a name with that card cannot be played in the field, or cannot be used as long as this is in the field. And then rest or recover J ruler you control, draw a card. So this helps both ways, because you say you play it and you name a Virgilius, and then they don't get to use their black ability to shoot you for 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get to use yours either, but you're only playing like 1, so it doesn't really matter. And it's only there to make sure your dudes get astral. But also this says tap, trigger Electo.
Yep.
That's what this says. And it's kind of just awesome because you're like, hey, cool, tap, trigger Electo whenever I need.
Sack or discard something.
Yeah.
When you draw step, tap, I draw a card, you discard. So thanks. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of gross how quickly this deck can just be like, hey, cool, you're drawing a card, you don't get to look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks. That is it for the deck itself. We're going to the stones. We first have Attoractia's Memoria, which is the one that adds for any color of the rulers. Magic Stone of Dark Depths, which is the blue-black. Magic Stone of the Scorched Bales, which is the red-black. And then Magic Stone of the Six Sages, which is the untapped stone, and produces 1 will of any attribute as long as you have a recovered J ruler. So you're almost always going to have that, so it makes your life easy here. And then the only card we have in the sideboard, or like the honorable mentions, is Satan, because you have to.
Yeah.
Because it's your only way to get rid of a Stemma. So you play this card as long as it cannot be your starting ruler. You pay 0, reveal it from outside the game, and keep it revealed until the end of the game. Pay 2 black if you control 2 Fallen Angel rulers that are astral. Swap those rulers with this card. Play this ability only if this card is revealed from outside the game. And then Trinity is pay 0. Non-Magic Stone entities your opponent controls lose all abilities until the end of turn. Destroy all non-Magic Stone entities. All players discard their hands. Remove all cards in all graveyards. Then put a 40/40 into play that has Eternal and Barrier. And when it leaves the field, you lose the game.
Yep.
So it's kind of a dangerous play, but you're not really worried about getting that God's Art so much as you are making sure that you have a way to win the game once they're down low enough. But if you need to hightail it into Satan, you can, and then just do the Trinity and have everything go away. Because it's kind of nice just to be like, hey, we're in top deck mode to both.
Yep.
Because your deck gets to do a lot better in top deck mode because you have Null, and you get to draw free cards.
Yep. And then you just swing and win, hopefully.
Yeah, so it's kind of easier for you to deal with Null, or deal with top deck, but it is what it is. Overall, the deck's super fun. I can't wait to play it. I'm super excited for it. So be on the lookout for this on one of our brawls coming up soon. We'll see y'all again next time.
Goodbye.
Later. Also, guys, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel, and then hit that bell for any future notifications that you have for our videos.
And we go ahead and give a big thank you to our fans for over the years, especially our Mythic and Above Patreon followers.
Thank you, Ryan.
With that, we love you. Thank you for your support.